50% of kids in kindergarten today will have jobs that don't exist today at all.
But you guys are actually having a conversation between the workforce and education. Nobody else is having that. No one else. So there's no communication as to what employers need and how we can better prepare the students.
Our children don't get to grow up in the comfort of an insulated America. So our nation cannot expect to train our children for the high-skilled jobs of the day or for the opportunities of the future without investments in a world-class education system.
We live in a world of constant iteration. There is no future classroom. Your classroom changes tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and so on and so on and so on. And we need to build a system around that reflects the economy that we're facing.
We don't know what our limits are, and certainly the young people that we're in the process of helping to learn to get an education, they see no limits.
We are now in a time where electronics is extremely cheap. Our manufacturing has gotten so good that we can produce extremely powerful electronics very, very cheaply.
You know that every single thing that you see was actually sold by someone.
The worker in the factory is primarily valued because of his hands. You know, he's basically a glorified machine. But the worker of the future, we're going to value because of its brain. Training our next generation of leaders, that generation needs to understand data. They need to understand how data is created, how data is transported, how data is used, and so forth. The most effective teams are teams that have people with high EQ, you know, emotional quotient, people who understand people.
Communication is the most important aspect of any kind of business.
Go to school to get your life, to learn your life lessons, the things that you need to learn to be able to adapt.
It's more important than job skills, more important than anything else, is good sense and the ability to adapt, the ability to change.
The movements that all of us are trying to do right now is to tie every single class with a job deliverable. A challenge that has arisen is that the technology is changing much faster than anyone at the community college level can afford to keep up with.
Consider it a challenge. If you don't have everything you need, make it, find it, and learn that way.
You have to have a solid knowledge of aesthetics, but at the same time, you have to be up on the technology in terms of the information that is available about it.
45% of the respondents, and there were close to 2,000 respondents in this survey, right, reported that fewer or no qualified applicants for the positions they were trying to fill. So the skill set has to be married with what I would refer to as the success-minded mindset. Now, some of you may commonly know this as soft skills.
We look for people that haven't necessarily taken the traditional path, but are eager to learn and utilize resources that are available to them.
And even at the middle schools, when I speak to students, they're coming in with the entrepreneurial mindset. So the traditional education curriculum works to an extent, but it's not addressing a Tanya Duche who's going to come in there, who's winging it, who has this mindset, who doesn't want to go traditional route.
We want people to learn and build skill sets, not because we tell them this is what's required, not because it's a checkbox that you need to check in order to complete your resume and go out there and find better jobs. It's because we want them to genuinely want to learn those skills.
Almost a quarter of all jobs in the global trade logistics space are middle-skilled jobs.
Your children, in order to be successful, particularly intellectually, if they're college grads, they're going to have to go work in Brazil. They're going to have to go work in Singapore. They're going to have to go work in Korea.
I spent some time in Swaziland working down there to help them with their IT issues. Swaziland is one of the poorest countries in the world, and everybody there is on Facebook. They have their cell phones. I was in Afghanistan working on a solar project there. One of the most worst places for infrastructure but everybody has a cell phone. So we really are globally connected.
We will not be able to compete educationally. Your children will not be able to compete educationally in a globalized economy in the current way that we do this.
When we think about this generation, Generation Z, 25% of them would have to fly on an airplane to visit their best friends.
We need to go back and teach these kids how to have an in-person conversation and to be able to talk on the phone.
When people come out of school, we need people who've had some sort of practice working in teams. That's the hardest thing we have in an interview, is trying to figure out, we can find people who are very technically savvy, and it's always hard to tell how they're going to work in a team.
We're asking high schools, we're asking colleges, please come in and visit our facility, visit our technical training facility, so that your students can see what the modern day technology looks like, so that you can see what the modern day technology looks like.
Future, most of the data going on the internet is not going to be generated by people. It's going to be generated by your house or your car. All of these things around us are going to be generating data. Not just a little bit of data, at least 1,000-fold more data than we're generating now.
In the past 5 years, the amount of available computational power has gone up between 30 and 100 times.
So we have to ask ourselves, if we want to take education seriously, like I'd like to take it seriously, do we have the right systems in place for them? Do we have the right processes in place for them? Have we thought about what our education systems and models need to look like for the economy that those 5-year-olds are going to be facing?